Good morning and welcome to day 88 of our 365 days of Bible study. Today we are moving into the next part of the ancient sagas of Israel and Judah, and today we're looking at the early monarchy, the time between Saul and Solomon. And we're right at the beginning of that and at the point where Samuel, the last of the charismatic leaders of Israel, anoints Saul, the first king. I'm reading to you from the first book of Samuel, chapter 9, the second half of verse 26, on to chapter 10, verse 8. When the sun came up the next day, Samuel called up to Saul, who was sleeping on the roof. "Get up," he called. "I need to get you moving." When he was up, they both went out to the street together and walked to the end of town with Saul's servant. "Tell your servant to go on ahead. You stay here for a minute. I want to tell you what God has told me." Then Samuel took out a jar of olive oil. He poured it out on Saul's head and kissed him, as he said, "Yahweh now anoints you as the ruler of his people Israel. You are to govern them and keep them safe from their enemies. And to prove that Yahweh has chosen you, when you leave me today, you will meet two men near Rachel's tomb at Zelzah, just inside Benjaminite territory. And they will tell you that your missing donkeys have been found. Your father isn't worried about them anymore, but about you. He keeps on asking, 'What am I going to do about my son?' From there you should keep going till you come to the holy oak tree at Tabor. There you will meet three men on their way to offer God a sacrifice at Bethel. One will be leading 3 goats, one carrying 3 loaves, and the third carrying a full wineskin. They will greet you and offer to you 2 of the loaves, which you must accept. Then you must go on to God's hill in Gibeah, where the Philistines have a camp. At the edge of town you will encounter a group of prophets coming down from the hill altar. They will be dancing and shouting, playing harps, drums, flutes, and lyres. Suddenly Yahweh's Spirit will grab you, and you will join in their sacred dancing and calling out, and it will be like you have become someone else. When all this happens, do whatever God wants you to do. Then you will go ahead of me to Gilgal. I'll meet you there, and I'll offer whole burnt offerings and communion sacrifices. Stay there and wait for me for a week until I come with fresh orders for you." It was when Samuel was elderly that people petitioned him to ask God to change the way Israel was to be governed. They were not impressed with Samuel's children, Joel and Abijah, who had not been assisting Samuel, but rather preferred the money that came their way. It appeared to Samuel that the people were in danger of rejecting the God who had liberated them from Egypt, who was their real king. He tried to dissuade them from wanting a human king by talking about the taxes and the military draft that would be imposed on them. You can read about this in 1 Samuel chapter 8. But they said they would put up with that, so God told Samuel to give them what they wanted. Now, Samuel had met Saul and was impressed by him. You can read about this in 1 Samuel chapter 9. And his impression was confirmed by God. But Samuel had to get Saul on his own to give him the news. It was on the occasion when Saul was searching for his father's missing donkeys that the opportunity arose, as we have seen in today's reading. The convoluted prediction of what would happen in the next few days is an interesting yarn, but it remains likely that tall and stately Saul would have to have had some additional charisma if he, as the first king of his nation, was to replace the last charismatic judge and be successful. Saul, singing and dancing and crying out like the prophetic band, somehow rings true for me. But more of this tomorrow. For now, Saul is a king in secret. It's all very well having oil poured on your head and receiving a kiss from an old prophet, but how do you let people know? And will they believe you? Come back tomorrow and we'll find out.